Well, good afternoon and welcome. We appreciate you being here as part of ASPIRE23. And you are here specifically for the Elevate Your Project-Centric Business with Progressus. And it's jumping ahead slides, but that's okay. We're going to make it work. So, welcome. I am your host, at least for now. My name's Rich Fowler. I am the Partner Account Executive with Velosio for Progressus Advanced Projects. And our subject matter expert today is our own pre-sales solutions architect with Velosio, Mr. Jeff Smith. Jeff, thanks for being here.
My pleasure.
He's on mute. So we've talked about infinite possibilities in Aspire to this point. Lots of sessions on what are the possibilities, and we hope at least that we're as close to infinite as we can get on your possibilities with your professional services firm. So the question is, what do professional services firms want to do outside of what they do? So is it possible to address the challenges of a professional services firm with Business Central and Progressus Advanced Projects? Well, the first thing we had to do is identify what some of those top reasons or challenges are and kind of put them in some buckets that we can at least knock down, or if they're bowling pins, knock them down one over the other. We did that. And we talked to many of our own customers as well as professional services firms in the industry. And we've identified many of those challenges. So the first challenge is it's complex. It's very complex to figure out profitability for your projects before the project is over. Yet that's one of the key features and key needs in a professional services firm is to be able to determine profitability along the way. Because if you just determine profitability at the end of the project, you do two bad projects, you're out of business. So determining profitability in its complexity ahead of the curve is one of the keys. Lack of insight into the costs of the project and the inability to track all of those things into the project, we're going to talk about. Lack of communication is huge in professional services firms. This department doesn't talk to that department, doesn't talk to this person. This system doesn't talk to that system. And that's been a historical problem that we can address. Lack of direction. And by that, we mean lack of direction into the project goals. Sometimes between the estimating, the budgeting, the planning, and the doing, direction gets lost. People do their own thing, and then costs get lost, and figuring out profitability ahead of time becomes a problem. Back to that first step. Also in there, undefined goals, whether it's a budget overrun, whether it's our ever favorite scope creep. Jeff's going to define scope creep for us here in a little bit. Lots of more bad things happen when we don't define the goals of a project and of a particular project resource. Part of that can also be impossible deadlines. Those deadlines can create unreal expectations both inside and outside the project team, at the client and at our team. And we need to be able to manage those expectations by defining and refining those impossible deadlines. How do we do that? We can't. Restrictive billing. A lot of people complain that restrictive billing doesn't allow them to bill the way they or their customer needs to bill on a project. And we all know if the customer doesn't get the kind of invoice they're expecting or can interpret, they're not going to pay it correctly. And that's the end goal, is to see that they're paying their bills to us as quickly as possible. Another one of those challenges is the product, and is all the information within the product device compatible? Can I use just one device? Do I have to use a specific device? Maybe in my role, I will use multiple devices. And can that challenge be addressed? And if so, how do we do that? Short answer, yes. We'll show you how in a minute. Is it simple? I need simplicity in the tools that I already use. One of the complaints that a lot of our prospects that have turned into customers expressed before we got them is, I'm doing a lot of very complex things in tools that my people don't know. Now I've got to teach them this and that and teach them something else. Can we just use something that's simple like Outlook or my calendar or my email that I can make life easier across the board? And again, the short answer is yes. Let's talk about it. And then probably the biggest challenge to any professional services firm is analytics, and specifically analytics that actually mean something within the project. So can I get that analytic to tell me what I need to know? So let's talk about infinite possibilities, and we're going to address all 10 of those top 10. Maybe not in specific order, but we are going to address them, and you will be able to see the overflow. So, is it possible in that world of infinite possibilities to eliminate siloed data? So, first, we need to ask, what is a siloed data and what does it matter? So, it matters because 74% of best in class organizations have strong alignment between marketing department and sales department. Now, we think that's half the battle. And I say that because we, with Business Central and Progressus Advanced Projects, can build in not only sales and marketing, but also project management. So we've got the project accounting as part of the project management. So now you've got sales, marketing, project, and with Business Central all as the core to this ERP, your accounting, your sales, your marketing, your project in one place, one silo of information, not multiple silos of information. So the single cloud-based one source of truth, that's what we're after. It's very tough to have issues that, oh, well, my system didn't tell me that because I'm using an Excel spreadsheet for this, and that didn't integrate into my ERP. Well, no, it doesn't. Generally, you want it all in one place. So with Business Central and Progressus Advanced Projects, tie in all four of those silos so that you have one source of truth. And Jeff has some stories. I have some stories of folks that we have talked to where in one case, the average that I see when I talk to customers is about 12 or 13. People start off with 12 or 13 different systems to do their work in and try to extrapolate meaningful analytics out of that. And frankly, it's not possible. I know Jeff, one of our colleagues said she encountered, her record is 23. Company had 23 different systems they were trying to maintain and get legitimate reporting out of those 23 systems. Almost impossible. And if you've got it in one place, you're able to shine a light on those hidden costs. You get all the information you need from whatever system it might be in, whether it's sales, marketing, project accounting, or ERP. It's in one place, it's real time, and it's real data. So you don't have to go searching and hiding and hoping that you got the right data. You know it's there and you know it's correct. Anything you want to add before I jump off, Jeff?
No, I just think that eliminating the problems that we have in communication between the different teams allows for easier problem solving and understanding. So I think you described it pretty well.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate that. Coming from Jeff, that's high praise. If Jeff says I did a good job, then I'm great with it. So let's talk about the next. Is it possible? Is it possible to simplify my workday? Now, what do I mean by that? Because can I make your workday easier? Does that mean less complicated, less stressful? Whatever it means, might mean something different, might mean a couple of different things. But the short answer is yes, it is very possible to make your workday less complicated, less stressful, and hopefully easier with Business Central and Progressus Advanced Projects. To do that, we're going to talk about a few different things. The first thing we're going to talk about is a customized dashboard view. And then inside, whoops, I don't know why it keeps jumping on me. Inside that customized dashboard view, we want to talk about different people. And as Jeff is the one that talks to and about each of these different people in a very detailed manner, Jeff, I'm going to let you kind of step through this and talk about the people we refer to and why each one needs a different view.
So, Rich, I think this is a really important piece of making life easier. It also encourages people to participate at the level they need to make everything work the way it's supposed to, because they're only seeing the things that are important to them to get their job done. So this first role that you're looking at is what we would call a project executive. And the project executive really has oversight over all the activity that's going on within the organization at a project level, as an example. And so, but they also play a role in workflow, such as time and expense approvals. They play a role in change orders and budget adjustments and things like that. And so we want to make sure that they have visibility in the places they need to have visibility. And I think that this is a good example of that at a high level. being able to see profitability per project, to be able to see how many projects are active, and to be able to carry out the tasks they need to carry out all in one place.
So that's one role. Talk about some of the other roles that we have the ability to be.
So, really, when we're talking about a project executive, they're kind of that executive in the organization that needs to see what's going on overall. But another important role is the project manager. So the project manager is going to be really focused in on what they're assigned to. And job is to make sure that they're keeping the client happy, that they're meeting expectations, but yet in many ways they have some of the same responsibilities that the project executive does, just at a more limited level because they're focused on their projects. So you'll see a very similar look and feel to their screens as you see at the project executive level, but isolated on what they're working on, giving them the ability to react quickly and to be able to do the things they need to do.
So from the project manager?
Then, the next role that's available is what's called the line manager. So a line manager really is a role that many people probably wouldn't understand in the beginning, but it really is fairly simple. Your resources may be assigned to multiple projects, but they report to one individual within the organization. That one manager or person within the organization needs to understand what their resources are participating in. They're more worried about timesheets, making sure people have their timesheets on time, making sure the expenses are being recorded appropriately. And if something's going wrong at a project level, they're going to hear that from the project manager. So their screen's going to be a little bit more simple.
And as we go from the complex to the simple, the next role?
The next role is more of an accounting role, because what we're trying to do here is make sure that the accounting team is able to see the trickle-down effects of the activity going on in the projects, so they can see what timesheets are out there, they can see what's been approved and not approved, but their role is going to be a little bit different than the folks that are actually touching and feeling the projects.
And then to the most simplistic screen, which is for the user in the field.
So really, what we want to make sure of is that the individuals that are working on the projects have an easy way to get where they need to go to enter timesheets, and making sure that those screens are simple, and also to be able to enter expenses. So this window is probably the most simple of all of them, because the individuals here are basically making sure that they're entering their time, accumulating their costs. And Rich, you and I have talked in the past how important it is for people to get their time in on a regular basis so that we don't miss things and we don't erode our profitability on a project.
Very good. We can and have done entire webinars on that particular topic.
Yes, we have.
So, okay, so we know the three, then we're going to talk about those three people: the project executive, the project manager, and the project worker, or the time entry user. So those are the folks we're going to talk about. As we talk about that, and we talk about, let's start with project manager. One of the things that the project managers have asked us, is it possible to simplify the creation of my project? And the short answer to that is yes. But Jeff, there are multiple ways to do it. Talk us through it.
Well, I think a lot of the answer to this question is, are your projects repeatable in structure? Because we can set up templates. We can set up task templates. Task templates can be really, really important in regards to creating what we call the work breakdown structure, or the structure of that project. And we can even take that to a point of being able to bring over, copying from another project, not only the structure, but maybe the budget, maybe a lot of the different pieces. So I think that's really, really important, but also just making sure that we're able to address the invoicing requirements of the client's really important too. So setting up the appropriate invoice format for the type of project that you may be producing. So you may, at a fixed price project, do things a little differently than you would at time and materials, because maybe that needs to be more detailed.
Then we can also do some automation on email as part of those templates to be able to set up something to go out to somebody based on a specific activity.
That's exactly right. And so one of the things that I think is the most important automated email is for the project manager is the ability to get email notifications as you're approaching your budget levels. So at a task level or at a project level, you can set restrictions to say, hey, if I get the 90%, I need to know that because I may only be at 50% of the work being accomplished, or I may be at 99%, but being able to know how I'm tracking and having some automated way to tap me on the shoulder to make sure I know.
And then my absolute favorite of all of the automation is the Project Wizard. What does that do for us?
Well, this is just a simple walkthrough where the system, and this is just a series of screens that you walk through to define the essence of the project. So who's the customer? What is the, if your time and materials, are there discounts on rates or anything like that? Is this tied to my pipeline? So if so, where? Also, is this fixed price? Is this time materials? Is it percentage complete billing? All that kind of stuff can be defined, as well as carrying over the task from a template as well, so that in virtually 20 to 30 seconds, you can create a new project on the fly.
And I think we need to highlight that because, as I mentioned when we opened this session, we did talk to many of our legacy clients in the Dynamics GP and Dynamics SL world as we were in the process of creating this product. And that was an overarching complaint in that world, is that it was cumbersome, it was time consuming, and it was complicated to get a new project created. The creation of the Project Wizard has excuse me, has completely eliminated that complaint. And as Jeff said, in a matter of seconds, and I despise the use of the word literally, but in this case, I will use it because it means what it's supposed to. In literally 90 seconds or less, you can create a new project and be able to start working and billing against that project with the Project Wizard. So can it be easier?
Rich, just think about some of our clients that have a work breakdown structure of 100 tasks and how long that takes if you're creating it uniquely every time. So, those types of things can be real time savers for, and based on the capacity of the project manager, they may be juggling a number of different projects. So the easier you can make that, the better off we're going to be.
Absolutely. So definitely wanted to highlight that. Thank you. So let's talk about the next what if. So those infinite possibilities. Is it possible to track the performance and get the results I anticipate? So how do I point them in the right direction? And then how do I push them to do the right thing? So easy way to do that. We talk about project forecasting and planning, but Jeff, I will ask you to, now again, this is, there we go. Either I've got heavy fingers or there's automation in here I'm not aware of. But anyway, let's talk about the budgeting and the planning, as this is a huge addition to standard Business Central with Progressus Advanced Projects.
Yeah, this first of all, there's a couple real advantages. Number one is we have the ability to manage at some level multiple budgets. So if there's changes in the project over time, we can have an original budget. We can have a reforecasted budget based upon changes that have come about. That's number one. Number two, we have the ability to use to estimate resources, expenses that we may incur. So if we travel and there's lodging or airfare, those types of things. But the other thing that's really good is that it allows us to budget the usage of our own inventory if that's necessary. So all of those costs can be put into this budget worksheet, and it really eliminates for some clients the need to go out and have some estimating system for them. So, and this is all integrated together. But ultimately, then what this allows you to do is, as you start and you dig into the project itself, you're entering time, you're entering expenses, you're consuming inventory. All of a sudden, you're very easily able to compare how am I doing versus what I estimated I'd do, and in many cases see that at the unit level, like hours versus dollars, and really get a good sense of how this is going to work.
Awesome. Now I'm going to ask two specific questions, and having worked with a lot of these customers yourself and knowing the costs associated. As we track budgets, one of the very unique features of Business Central with Progressus Advanced Projects is being able to capture the costs of a project before it really becomes a project. And by that, I mean, we talk about some of the larger clients in the architecture world, the engineering world, the construction world, where it may take 3, 6, 9 months to win a bid, yet there are costs involved with winning that bid. Can I capture those costs before I get the project? Maybe I lost
The
Jeff.
answer to that is yes, Rich. We have the ability to start off as an estimate or a quote, and we have the ability to enter time even when that project is sitting in a quote state. So as John Doe salesperson, or Susie Smith, who might be an engineer that's participating in that estimating prospect, they're able to collect their time so that ultimately you can see a true profitability, including sales time.
And that's probably one of the things that we see most often that people forget is they look at the project and go, great, I made a little bit of money on this project. And especially in the engineering world, they may say, yeah, but it took 28 revisions of the bid process. It took 6 months. It took X number of trips to the client site. If I put those costs in, then maybe I didn't make as much money as I thought. And those are the projects that you want to give to your competition, not necessarily chase yourself.
Right.
Okay, so planning, tracking, budgets, a big deal. Back to is it possible? So we're talking about the planning, we're talking about the budgets. Can I define my project goals and actually provide project leadership? So tell me what leadership means first, Jeff, and then answer the question.
Well, project leadership is really allowing your capabilities of managing how you're doing versus a project from the very beginning, and managing that, and then working together with your team to make sure that you stay on task. So a lot of times, even here at Velosio, we'll have status meetings, those types of things. Someone has to take that role where they're in charge of the project to make sure people are following the guidelines.
And then once we've defined that, how can we keep them on track?
How can we keep them on track? Well, we'll be able to compare actual to budget ongoing. So how has John Doe done? Because we may have budgeted time for a particular role. And then we can see how many hours or how many dollars have been invested in that role. How much have we billed for that role? So that we can basically get it down to the task level and to the resource level or to the expense level.
Okay. And on this screen, we are specifically showing something called Power BI. Many of our customers are familiar with Power BI. It comes with Progressus and Business Central as an out-of-the-box solution. It's the next level in reporting and providing data out to your stakeholders, whether they be the users themselves or project managers, project executives. Progressus gives you 13 different dashboards of project-specific data. We're not going to take the time to go through all 13 of those here. However, many of them, we will cover a few of them, but all of them are configurable if you want to change the data a bit. You see the KPIs that are here and the actual versus budgets, and you can break it down into a lot more. We're going to talk about Power BI a bit more in a second, but just to realize there's a lot of reporting available. So if you want to provide that leadership, first the leader has to have the information, and you do have the information at your fingertips. Let's go more into possibilities. And this is, again, probably one of those things that we see a lot. I have the problem of not putting the right resource on the right project. So the question becomes, how and why does it matter if I put the right resource on the right project? Well, it matters because best-in-class professional services organizations are 66% more likely to be able to precisely allocate resources. And as we talk about the precision there, we actually, with Business Central and Progressus Advanced Projects, give you two ways to precisely allocate those resources. One not so precise, one very precise. You want to walk through that for me, Jeff?
Sure. So when it comes to allocating resources, we have the ability to, first of all, at the resource level, assign skill. And you, as a project manager or a project leader, are going to know that, hey, for this particular task, I'm going to need someone with this particular skill. And so this is just an easy way for you to be able to say, okay, in this example, Jeff Smith is a project manager. We need a project manager. And then, but we also have the ability at beyond the resource skills to what we call resource groups, which is another way for us when we're estimating. We may not know who we're assigning, but we know that we're going to need this type of resource. But then once we've started, then we have the ability to budget and have actual time entered in a what we call a resource board that really will show us in real time, basically what time either resource groups or resource individual resources have been allocated to what projects. So it makes it easier for the project managers and for the leadership in the organization to make sure the right resources are put in the right place at the right time based upon their availability.
Beautiful. And that's a pretty tight answer to that question. It's yes, skills with a resource board makes it easy. So as we move forward, is it possible to define deadlines and dependencies in a project? Tell us what that means first on the dependencies, and then can we do it?
Well, so we may have particular tasks that can't be completed until another task has occurred. So there are dependencies. So, and how we do it is we have the ability to create Gantt charts that basically, in essence, are really working like a project planner to say, okay, here are the things that need to get accomplished. Here's the order for which they need to get done. Here's the amount of time we anticipate it'll take to get them done. And it really allows you to lay out a good schedule. We even have the ability to, if something gets delayed, to push forward everything beyond that forward to allow for that change. So this dependency, this Gantt chart functionality really allows us to be very, very precise in regards to making sure we know where we're at, first of all, but second of all, have everything working together.
Beautiful. And the Gantt chart ties specifically back to the resource board, so we know where our resources are, what they're doing, and where they're going.
Right.
Okay. Let's go to the next one. We're running out of time quickly. I didn't think it would that this time is going fast, but then we're talking about things we do on a regular basis. So this is our sweet spot. So again, another big question within the professional services world is it possible to bill in line with what my customer expects? So as we talked about that, we looked at the top 5 types of billing in the professional services world. And those are the top 5 that you see. And those we see frequently as well. Hourly, fixed fee, milestone, personal hourly on specific rate schedules, and retainer. But we add other things in there. We add things like for the specifics of an AIA progress billing for architect and engineers, or for or for the construction world, and you add in things like retainers, you add in holdback, you add in all kinds of other things. But then the question becomes, Jeff, what do I have to choose? What if my project is multiple? How do we handle those types of billing, and can we bill the way our customer needs us to?
Well, absolutely. So there's a couple answers to that. First of all, the format of the bill can be formatted around what the customer needs, detailed, summarized, et cetera, et cetera. But also then a common example is we have a fixed price project where all of the activities on the project are going to be a fixed price, but because of travel or expenses that are incurred, those may be billed more like a time and materials, so that you do have a mixed environment where you're billing part of the project at fixed price, you're billing another part of it at time and materials.
And that's not an issue. We can bill. Is there a limit to how many types of billing types?
No, not really.
So just whatever is necessary on that particular project. And as we see with things like you mentioned travel and expenses, but change orders, you may have a fixed price or a milestone project that has a change order, and that change order needs to be time and material bill. Still
That's
okay?
correct. Yeah, that's right.
Still okay. So to the question of, is it possible to bill the way your customer needs to be billed? Short answer is yes, and we can help with that.
Right.
So we keep talking about, is it possible and can we make it simple? How do we make it simple for that user in the field? Now, we talk about a few things. We talk specifically about work where your business takes you. Depending on the type of business you are, you may have folks that are in the field, you may have them in the office, you may have them traveling between the two. So whether it is on a phone, a laptop, a desktop, a tablet, to us, it doesn't matter. Device agnostic for Business Central and for Progressus Advanced Projects doesn't matter. But for the people that are in the field, having it available on their phone, whether that's an iPhone or an Android device or whatever, that tends to make their life much easier. And more importantly than making their life easier, makes their information input more precise, more accurate, and more timely. So now you actually get what you expect as the product and project manager. So want to talk about that for a sec, Jeff?
Well, I think this is a good example right here of being able to enter. This is what the mobile device would look like, and it mimics everything that you would have on your normal desktop unit or your tablet to allow you to do all of the activities. So as an example, when I enter time, I can enter time day by day. I can enter descriptions of that time. I can submit my time directly from my phone. And so many of our consultants may, at the end of a day, enter their time to summarize what they've done that day. It's a lot easier for them to remember what exactly they did at that point. And then they can do that each day of the week and then submit the timesheet at the end of the week if they're on a weekly cycle. So I think that really just gives them a much, much better way of getting things done and recording it accordingly, because there's no limitation on notes that can be added or how often they enter their time.
And there's also no limitation on picture taking. So the ability to take a picture of that receipt or of that project sign off or
Yep.
whatever. So you have all of those in
Yep.
front of you as well. So
And
we're talking.
even for people within the organization, maybe that don't work on projects, but they may do expense reports. You can have administrative type projects as well for your internal team to be able to enter their time and enter their expenses all through the same solution.
One source of truth.
Right.
So let's, as we push toward the end, we only have a few minutes left, but one of the important things is it possible to make it simpler? We've already said yes to much of that with tools I already own. So we're talking, most of the folks, we're a Microsoft centric organization. Most folks that we deal with have Outlook, have calendar, have email. How do we play with that?
Well, the great thing is that we have the ability to integrate with Outlook for time entry. And then we can also pass information back and forth between the applications. So it really makes you, it allows you to budget your time to your Outlook calendar. You can then enter your time against the appointments that you may have on your calendar. And say you had a 4-hour meeting, but it actually took 4.5 or took 6, whatever. You just enter the time appropriately from there. So the Outlook interface is very, very useful from a project perspective, but in Business Central in general, there's some wide variety of functionality that's available to connect Outlook.
And as this screen is showing, you don't have to bounce between the applications. You are in your Outlook. The Business Central pops up, you populate what you need, and you can continue to move on with your day right from within Outlook.
That's exactly right.
Beautiful. So let's talk about communication. That last bullet point was communicating to the entire team. Is it possible to communicate as appropriate the things that need to go out to the team? And thank you, Jeff, for mentioning spreadsheets early on. You know, one of the things that we noticed, and it's true across industries, is almost a quarter of all spreadsheets contain an error, and it takes 3 business days to get that fixed. So why would we be playing with spreadsheets and trying to push that around the organization if we know it ends up costing us time, money, and errors when we can do it without having to do that? So we like to talk about the analytics and the insights that are available. Now, we did already speak to Power BI specifically to that one, but as we look at this, tell us a little bit about what's offered in Power BI, Jeff, and some of the things, some of the insights you can get out of it.
Well, so the 13 dashboards that come with the product are very insightful, and they range from how am I doing? What's my budget, and how much of my budget is left? How am I doing? Cost versus budget, etc. How profitable is the project? But also it focuses on resources and how productive they are as well. So we really get a view across the entire gamut of the activity that goes on your project. And so I find that these projects, and one of the things we haven't talked about is just the idea that we can put in attributes for projects so that we can break them down even further, and Power BI can take advantage of that. So if I wanted to look at just a particular type of project or region where we're doing projects, those types of things, I can get that, and I can then create Power BI dashboards for that as well.
Beautiful. And that's one of the things that we talk about in Power BI with advanced projects is if you've captured the data, then we can push the data out into analytics that are meaningful to you. I love the one that we're showing on the screen right now because you can tie in things like maps and regionality and know that, I may have customers in certain locations, or where are my customers, where's my customer concentration, and even profitability. And you may be able to determine that my sales reps in the Northeast don't do as well as sales reps in the Southwest, or vice versa, and be able to actually show real data for things like that. And that's something that a lot of customers don't even realize they can do until they start getting under the covers of Business Central with advanced projects and Power BI. So, Jeff, we've hit all 10. We are 90 seconds away from the end of our time, so I think we hit that relatively quickly. Thank you so much for being my expert with this. I spend all day in project accounting and advanced projects, and it's nice to hear from an actual expert instead of me. Thank you all for being part of our ASPIRE23 presentation. We love to answer questions. We have been monitoring the chat as we go. Anything that needs to come out otherwise, we will absolutely push out to the entire group if it wasn't answerable here. And for Jeff Smith, I'm Rich Fowler saying thank you so much for attending ASPIRE23.